Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeartRadio network, the number one media network in the United States of America, and also Big C Sports voted the number one sports show in the universe, Big C, according to Big C, that's good old boys down south. And I also want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. Thank you so much for following Big C, of course, across the pond and in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Don't want to leave out Australia. Thank you so much, Australia, for following Charlton and Big C Sports. Of course, the good old boys from Canada. Oh, Canada! I mean, I may only know that part well, Big C, but I think I do that part as well as anybody in the world, Big C. But no one is loved any more than the good old boys from the land of the free and the home of the brave in the good old United States of America. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
I'm salivating for the weekend coming up because it's going to be Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's going to be a whole lot of joy and cheer going around, Charlton. And,
yeah.
And going to need to be able to wash it down with something slow.
Yeah.
Christmas match out there blowing in the back. We're going to have a very relaxing time where you're away from the house.
That's funny. When you talk about enjoying the moonshine, the bell rings because all the good old boys, it's like the Kentucky Derby. It was kind of a racetrack last night with Kentucky and Louisville going at it, Big C. So that's the Kentucky Derby sound. But so much happening in the world of sports. A big football game coming up tonight, especially for the New York Giants. And even I want to commend John Gruden when the Eagles were 3-0 at the beginning of the year, and he was saying that Carson Wentz has a lot of poise and looks like he could be an all-pro NFL player. And since that time, he's going 2-9, Big C. And we want the man to succeed, but even the great John Gruden was wrong, Big C. And some guys called him out today on that, and they even played the tape, how Gruden was saying how great things was. Now Gruden's talking about getting back in coaching because this new thing called this new agreement that's coming up, Big C, with the sponsors that are going to pay football more, and they got the contract for the NBA. A lot of players going to make a lot more money. So maybe Gruden's getting ready to get back into the world of coaching. But I just want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive one, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, I just want to ask you, I know yours is still muddy, so we won't get on the mud that you left on that Escalade much longer, Big C, but have you decided to clean it even for Christmas, Big C? Even for Christmas?
You look at it and it looks like Christmas decorations, Charlton.
Yeah.
You have all the streaks and lines on that, Charlton, and when you touch the brake lights, everything turns around.
Yeah.
It looks like it's very festive, it blends with the holiday season, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
Those autumn colors.
That's funny. It's always good to get a laugh. I'm telling you, this thing called the reticular activating system, and I'm not saying it just because wintertime, because you at least have the balls to keep yours muddy in the summertime and spring, but I see a lot of good old boys not even washing their vehicles anymore in California. Maybe it's partly because of the drought, or maybe because they listen to Charlton and Big C Sports. But Big C, I just want to get your thoughts on all of this talk coming up. And, we had some great NBA basketball and hockey happening all over the country, and then UFC and MMA going down too. But the great coaching carousel for these colleges, there's so much talk now. I even heard the great Kirk Herbstreit saying, and he played at Ohio State, he doesn't believe that players should skip their bowl games, which is an exhibition game, and they should play for their teammates. And if they get the chance to go on to the NFL, where only about 1.5 are going to make it from the college level anyway, he's saying they should not skip because they should play and risk the chance of being injured. And then he had a statement that says, if you're going to skip the bowl game, why not just skip your whole senior season? That doesn't even make any sense. If you're one game away from making $35 to $50 million, Big C, in your contract coming up over the next 5 years, why take a chance and blow out your knee, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, I look at what these players, during the regular season, you're out there actually participating in 12 games in the regular season, Charlton.
Yeah.
So as we talked about, a lot of these bowl games, Charlton, when you put these bowl games on television, it's a money grab for the NCAA and the university.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking at it.
Yeah.
Who's making extra money in these bowl games? The coaches have bonus incentives.
Yeah.
If they're going to make money, if they make a bowl Charlton.
Yeah.
You and I have addressed what the players receive out of this. Unless you're playing in one of those championship games, Charlton, what's the meaning of these bowl games? There'll be bowl games on tonight. There were on bowl games last night. There'll be bowl games on tomorrow night. Tell me what the viewership level of that. You're not hearing about what the viewership level on these bowl games are, Charlton, like you'll hear about the NFL ratings.
Yeah.
Or even the championship series ratings that they're going to have with the top 4 teams.
Yeah.
So when you look at some of these bowl games, Charlton, and we're talking about a lukewarm perspective from fanfare that you're getting. And so when we get the critics, I heard Mark Ricks a couple of days ago say, and Mark Ricks is the former head coach at the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
Now he's University of Miami Hurricane head coach as of last season, after being let go at the University of Georgia after 10 years or so.
Yeah.
He also played at the University of Miami. Talking about how disappointed Charlton he was, like Herb Street, in players skipping these bowl games. Okay?
Yeah.
If he's disappointed in a player walking away from the university, Charlton, with no compensation, why did he accept the $4 million that Georgia paid him this year after being fired while he was coaching at the University of Miami?
Oh, I thought he was gonna get that money back, Big C.
If he was gonna do anything, Charlton, why didn't he say, hey, let it go to every player that graduates? I'm gonna set up this endowment with this $4 million.
Yeah.
And every one of the players that I recruited, when they graduate, this is the amount of money that they're going to get. So he could have split that up between the 100 players that he left behind, Charlton.
Well,
and each one of these players would have received some $400,000 among, once graduating from the University of Georgia. A nice nest egg to start out life with. But Mark Ricks is like, no, hell, I'm greedy. I'm a college football coach. That's my money. I earned it because the players are still playing.
Well, Big C, I think... And I know this is early, but I think he's going to give that money back. I think he's going to donate that money to the university, Big C. I don't think he's going to keep it because he even grew up conscious. So maybe I'm wrong, Big C, but I think he's going to donate all of that $4 million back to the university so they can give this money to those kids, Big C. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, Jonathan, he would set a precedent by doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that the National Brotherhood of College Football Coaches might have him assassinated if he did something like that, because they're going to say, hey, you're setting a precedent that people want us to give money back. We're making too much money off of this free labor of the players who are going out there putting on these wonderful performances week in, week out during college football season. And I'm getting these huge paychecks and bonuses. Yeah. And I don't have to give them anything for it. Do I look stupid?
Well, Big C.
It's working for free?
Yeah, but I do want to say, I want to defend Kirk Herbstreit because he's saying, why are these players skipping out, playing college football, their bowl game, just have the chance to go to the NFL? Even Joey Bosa held out from the NFL draft because he didn't want to take a pay cut coming from Ohio State. Didn't Kirk Herbstreit also play at Ohio State?
Kirk Herbstreit played at Ohio State.
Yeah.
But I think Herbie's a little... Because he didn't get a chance to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the opportunity to skip the bowl game in his final season, Charlton.
Yeah.
These are the things you have to look at. The people who are saying what, Charlton? How many bowl games, or how many times did they play an NFL game? I think is the number one thing you want to look at.
Yeah.
So when you want to, negatively impact your injection on a player who is looking out for his future, your future, you don't do anything prior to a broadcast that's going to jeopardize what you're going to do. And look at Herbstreit. How many times do you go out and get liquored and then drive to the game show? Do you go out and get drunk? No, you protect your interest by not drinking.
Yeah.
So, this is the same scenario with a player. Why should you go out there in a meaningless scenario, Charlton, and not saying that a player will get hurt, but the potential is always there. In the first game of the season, the fifth game of the season, Charlton, and the last game of the season, but even more so in the last game of the season, Charlton, because some players are not as intense. Their bodies are tired when you think about the long road that they've had when they kicked off college football, the second week in August?
Yeah, in August.
The second week in August, they kicked off college football. Here it is now. We're at the end of December. And college football is not going to end until what, February? It'll be Easter, before college football ends.
Well, Big C.
These players are working real hard to monstrous hours. Oh, but let's not forget, they're in the classroom also.
Oh, yeah, they got his 32.
They're going to school also while they're making the school money.
Well, I think it's so funny how you had the Maurice Claret. He also played at Ohio State. I think he had a car program or whatever, lease program, the good old boys. Who was that coach that did it for him?
Jim Tressel.
Tressel, yeah.
Jim Tressel's, suspension from the NCAA just he had a 5-year suspension from the NCAA that he could not coach at another major program. So he ended up becoming the president of Youngstown State University, which is where he started his head coaching career. And he won 3 national championships at the Division I AA level, Charleston. Prior to going to Ohio State. And ironically, Youngstown State is in the finals again in the I AA playoffs. But Jim Tressel, expect for him to be one of those people when they're talking about coaching searches to be able to rear his head back into the game. We saw the success he had at Ohio State. Could he duplicate that at another program? Both Youngstown State, Ohio State, and who's next?
Yeah, that's funny, Big Z. I also want to say, and I like Kirk Herbstreit. I really like his work. I think he learned a lot by being in the press box with the great Brent Musburger. But even talking about athletes shouldn't get paid and should not look out for their best interest. Even the great Kirk Herbstreit on ESPN for about 20 years, he had this Herbstreit Kickoff Classic where they even took high school football teams from around the country and they all met down in Dallas, Texas at Jerry Jones' place. I think they even started at the old Cowboy Stadium. Now they do it at the new Cowboy Stadium. It's called the Herbstreit Kickoff Classic for high schools, and they'll take teams from all over the country, and they'll fly into Texas, or maybe they take the school bus, but I doubt it, but they fly into Texas by whatever sponsorship is given to them, and they play a high school football game that's also broadcast by ESPN. Now, the only people not getting paid are the athletes. They're doing this for money because ESPN will sell advertising for people who want to watch high school kids run around a big football stadium, and they sell the advertising where there is, whoever advertises, they do that. But even Kurt, when they do these broadcasts, he gets paid. He doesn't give that money back to create a scholarship for these kids, Big C.
Kirk Herbstreit has an agent to negotiate his value to ESPN. What they need to pay him per season, per broadcast, however they break it down. He's not out there doing it for the joy of the game, the love of the game, to get an education. Okay?
Yeah.
He's not doing that. He is demanding compensation for what he...
For high school kids? You think so? For high school kids?
For publicizing these high school kids, for broadcasting these college games, he is demanding millions of dollars from ESPN for being able to do this. All right?
Well, you don't think...
He don't come in and say, hey, I just want to be a part of your program.
You don't think he does it for free just for the love of the game, Big C?
No. Any of these guys, Charleston, stand up and say, hey, I'm here because I just want to be here. Because I want to be a part of the situation. You can make all the money you want off of me, and I don't want anything but a plane ticket to get here. I don't need anything but a hotel room for the night. All right, that's all I want. But you keep making your money. Just like the college players, be happy for sleeping in a dorm that half the dorm is partying all night long. But don't worry about it. If you miss 3 days of school this week because you're on the road, don't worry about it. We'll get your grades made up.
Well, I think that Kirk Herbstreit, I don't think he gets paid for broadcasting high school football players, Big C. And if he does, I'm sure he donates that money back to the schools that fly in all around the country to go play a football game in the great state of Texas so ESPN can cover the high school kids. I'm sure ESPN takes all that advertising money and they actually give it back to the schools that flew in there, Big C. I'm sure that's what they do. I may be wrong, but I would doubt if I'm wrong. I'm sure they donate that money to those people. And speaking of money, this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? Or the case of the kickoff classic for the high schools, what can $1 million do for you, Big C? But I think buying the lottery, half of that money goes back to the schools. And I'm sure ESPN, when they have the Herbstreit Kickoff Classic, they give half the advertising dollars back to the participating schools too, Big C? Or am I a little bit naive, Big C?
Let's hope for the best, Until ESPN comes out with a press statement, and then we're donating 50% of the proceeds that we make off of these manipulation of high school kids back to the programs, back to their conference, then I will believe it. But you've never seen a statement where any broadcast corporation is saying, we're donating this money back to these free labor athletes or their university. I remember years ago when they had the scholarship, the donation of $1,000 back to the university for the player of the game. And it sounded great, when fans heard, we're going to donate $1,000 to general scholarship fund of this university.
It costs that much to take 10 people to a game, Big C.
It's just like Allstate with the nets behind the extra point field goal.
Yeah.
When they donated over 25 years of $4.5 million.
Yeah.
Calculate that, Charlton. $4.5 million over 25 years, and how many college football games are played a week that's broadcast? Probably 50 games are broadcast a week, and they have a net up at every stadium. So when you think about the minuscule amount of money that they've given back versus the amount of advertising that they've gotten off of those nets, Charlton, it's nothing. It's almost like a slap in the face. But, you know, when you think about it, you know, when you would pay a visiting team to come in, and I know next year South Carolina is going to pay a team, you know, $1.6 million to come in.
Wow.
And hoping that they lose. $1.6 million. And when you go back and think that they donate, you know, they used to donate $1,000 to the general scholarship fund, not the athletic fund, Jonathan.
The scholarship fund.
With somebody in band, you know, in art, you know, in science, anything, Jonathan, didn't go to the athletes who brought the money into the university. Another form of manipulation of an athlete. An athlete is bringing money into the university and not receiving any of the benefits of it.
Yeah, well, Big C, that's part of the whole reason. And I believe that as an intelligent person, there's one thing to keep people dumb and stupid and they're sycophants, so they don't even question authority. They're just happy to put on a jockstrap and get a hat and some sweatpants. And that's okay if you're a dumb person. But when there's money being passed around, I believe none of these broadcasters work for free. Unlike LeBron James, who donated several $1 million to create scholarships, I think it's $40 million of his own money to help create scholarships. None of these broadcasters are doing that. None of these coaches are not donating $1 million to help young kids. They just want the young kids to play for free. And that's okay if you're just a dumb person, you don't know any better. But as you become more well-read, and once you start realizing that you have a value in the workplace, just like you have a value in the workplace, you can go out and send out your resumes. You can go interview and apply for jobs. There's a dollar assignment attached to your value to that company. While these athletes, if they're still dumb, they don't recognize that they're part of a $1 billion institution that's still called free labor. Yeah, they may get a scholarship, but it's not worth $1 billion in education and pay, Big C. But they control over $1 billion in finances just by giving that free labor to the university. And they know that only about 1% will ever get paid to do that. So the university is like a pimp, and they're getting all these prostitutes working for free, Big C. I know it may sound harsh to say that, but that's the fact. They should get some compensation, even minimum wage. In the great Nick Saban down in your neck of the woods, he was asked a question about what he thinks. You know, the great Nick Saban that was not going to leave Miami to go back to college, that Nick Saban, Big C. That same Nick Saban who makes about $7 million a year, Big C, he said he had no comment. He had no comment on whether players should hold out and put their self-interest at place, just like he put his self-interest in place when they decided to go get the money, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it would have been too hypocritical for Nick to make a comment in a negative light towards the players, Charlton, after his history of walking away from programs. Now, you got to remember, he walked away from the players at LSU.
He did?
First. He left there to go to Miami.
Why?
Okay?
Why?
That's how he got to the Dolphins. I think they tossed a little more money.
Okay.
He needed to take a pay cut.
Big C, I thought he left for the love of the game, Big C. Am I naive, Big C? You're saying he did it for money?
Well, we need to get Tom Herman on a press call from the University of Houston and went down to Texas.
Yeah.
You leave Houston because you wanted to just coach at Texas, and you didn't care that they didn't pay you more. Okay?
Yeah.
But his salary doubled, if not tripled, Charlton, when he left the University of Houston for the University of Texas. And I understand it's a bigger program, Charlton, but it was a bigger paycheck, even more so.
Yeah.
Because you left a team that had won 9 to 10 games, Charlton, to go to a team that had only won 4 or 5. Okay?
I thought
it's not proven that you're going to make a better team by going to Texas because the players who won when you're at Houston weren't transferring with you.
Yeah. So, I've always thought that people did things for the love of the game because that's what you tell people to manipulate them. You tell them don't work for money, just do it because, you're nice. Do it because you love your school. Do it because you want to have this brotherhood Don't worry about getting paid. You don't need to eat. We already give you 3 sandwiches a day. Don't worry about going out and saving your knee. And there's just kids who played for the great university of Notre Dame, and they played Ohio State last year. I think they were playing down in the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. And Joey Bosa was also at that game. I think he got kicked out for spearing. But there's a linebacker, number 9, can't remember his name. But I think, okay, Smith, he injured his knee. What happened to him, Big C?
Charlton, he was slated to be a top 5, top 7 pick in the NFL draft. He was going to be guaranteed making somewhere between $15 and $17 million, okay?
Yeah.
And he blew out his knee. He got drafted by the Cowboys this last year, I think about the 6th round, 5th or 6th round.
He fell 5 rounds?
He fell underneath Dak Prescott in the draft, Charlton.
Wow.
But he did not even play. They drafted him as a project. They knew that they needed depth down the road. They could take a chance on the guy. Why? Because you didn't have to pay him anything, Charlton. When you think about what you have to pay a 6th round draft pick in the NFL, yes, it's a lot of money to the layman person.
Yeah.
On NFL standards, it's very minimal. You can get by paying that guy about $400,000 for the season. You got a guy that you know he's not going to play. You got him in for rehab. This is $400,000 you're giving him to come in and work out. If you get anything out of him, Johnson, if he can come back to 95% of what he was as a junior in college,
yeah,
it's a steal. Because you're never going to be on the hook for the first 4 years that you have the guy, Johnson, for more than $2 million.
Wow.
You can become an all-pro linebacker, and you still only owe him $2 million over 4 years. That's what happened. But when you think about that injury that he suffered, catastrophic knee injury in that bowl game, and you saw Bosa get kicked out for spearing.
Yeah.
That was intentionally to get kicked
I
out.
was just going to say that. He did it on purpose. He's not dumb.
He saw the injury of Smith, the Notre Dame linebacker, who wore number 7.
Yeah.
Once he saw the injury of him, he said, like, hey, ain't no need me standing here. I know I'm going in the first round.
Yeah.
I'll drill somebody to get out of the game.
Well, you see,
and that's what he did. It was calculated and tactical.
Yeah.
He wasn't dumb, but no one called him dumb for getting kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
That was a good move by Joey Bosa, because now he doesn't have to risk injury like Smith did.
Well,
so, this is what players have to go through, but no one is saying we care about the players' health. We do. If they don't eliminate chop blocking in the bowl games, Charlton, they don't eliminate those things. So if you want these bowl games to continue, eliminate certain things that a player can do to another player in these games to protect the safety of the game, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I tell you, there's something about the world of intelligent people, and I'm not trying to be flippant here, and let's just be honest, in society, some of the young people are the easiest to take advantage of. Whenever there's a draft, they don't draft 40-year-old men who have some intellect about them, some intelligence. They draft these 18-year-old kids. I know the draft is over, and hopefully they won't bring it back under the good old boys in their project for a new American century coming up on the 20th of January. But hopefully we won't have the draft again. But they always get these young men, and they brainwash them into believing they're doing something for the team or for some greater cause. And now this kid at Notre Dame gave up about about $9 million, Big C, just because.
More like 15.
Oh, 15. Okay, just because he had the love of the game and the great Notre Dame that he knows. We know some things went on at Notre Dame that maybe are still under the hush hush with the 22 game suspensions. And here's a guy that loved Notre Dame, put his career on the line for Notre Dame football. And when he got injured, Notre Dame didn't make up that $15 million that he was going to get as being drafted, Big C. Or maybe I'm naive. Did they, Big C? Did they make it up?
Well, Charlton, that cuts from the Fiesta Bowl because they're a non-conference team. They're independent.
Yeah.
So whatever that cut was, $8 to $12 million payout for being in the Fiesta Bowl for Ohio State, that university got all of that money, Charlton. They didn't have to share it. But like you said, they didn't say, okay, because this kid lost $15 million in draft stock where he went in the draft, we're going to help compensate for that. We made $12 million as a university. We're going to split it with him because he helped us get to that point. We're going to give him 6 of it. No, Johnson, that's not what the university needs. We'll get you some surgery.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. We'll get you some surgery, and you can rehab here until you go elsewhere.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we're not compensating you for your massive loss of income and potential income, Johnson.
Well,
but that's not what universities do. I remember a running back that was in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Marcus Lattimore.
Oh, yeah, he was amazing.
One of the most talented backs in the country as a freshman in South Carolina playing under Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
As a He had a catastrophic knee injury where he blew out his knee. Set out the following year, redshirted, came back in his junior season, Charlton, I believe 3 games to go in the season.
Yeah.
He suffered another catastrophic knee injury where he dislocated his knee, Charlton, and tore a ball and ligament.
Wow.
Going back to participate in his university where people say, you should go pro. But you had other things saying, no, you want to come back and help the university. They stood behind you and all your injuries, blah, blah, blah. The 49ers drafted him when Harbaugh was still the coach.
Yeah.
Harbaugh gave him a chance to at least fulfill his dream being on an NFL roster. Kept him for 2 years, even though the kid couldn't play. Kept him for 2 years because Harbaugh understood what the university had done to this young man.
Yeah.
And so he gave him a chance to fulfill that NFL dream before Marcus Lattimore retired. Now he's a high school coach back at his alma mater in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Good to see that he's progressed on in life. But those dreams that he had and aspirations of playing in the NFL just didn't come to fruition, Charlton, on a long-term basis, nor did the university ever say, we're going to compensate you. But you got to think about the millions of dollars that Steve Spurrier made when he was the head coach at South Carolina and probably still being paid by the university.
Are you saying Steve Spurrier, he didn't coach for free? He didn't coach for the love of the game? I thought he was doing it for free, Big C. Are you saying he actually took money just to coach football, a game that he loves so much, Big C?
Well, we're talking, he took money when he was the number 1 draft pick of the San Francisco 49ers back in 19.
Are you sure, Big C? He didn't play.
After playing at the University of Florida and backing up John Brody for the majority of his career.
Yeah.
But when he became the head coach at Duke, where he started, he was actually the head coach of the Tampa Bay Panthers.
Yeah.
In the
USFL.
And that's where he started and had the fun and gun offense down there, went to the University of Duke. His first head coaching college job prior to going to the University of Florida, winning national championships down there.
Yeah.
Ended up retiring, going to South Carolina, coming back out of retirement. But Charlton, I don't think any of those jobs he had were for free.
I thought they did it. I thought they did it for the love of the game, man. Speaking for the love of the game, this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions, and also we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We also work with all of the unions in the country under the AFL-CIO, and we're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. You can also follow us on Twitter at YesCharlton. And so, Big C, another thing that just comes to my mind, and I think about, we talk about how sometimes the athletes are supposed to just play for the love of it. CTE is an issue, and we talked about Rashawn Salam. Again, my heart and prayers go out to his family. He supposedly was suffering from some CTE. I wonder how many other college players have to deal with that. And once they don't get a job in the NFL, or if they don't go to Canada, if they don't go to some other league that's going to pay them money, Big C, they're on their own back into the workforce like everybody else. But unlike the average kid that goes to a university, let's just say even Georgia, or let's say Florida, or Stoops at Oklahoma, or let's go Ohio State, these athletes are making hundreds of millions of dollars for the athletic program. The kids studying math and science is not, and math and science is more important than being an athlete, but they're not giving money to the university. They may get some money from the federal government, but they're not producing hundreds of millions of dollars for a university that gives nothing back more than a sweatsuit. There's a guy that played at Fresno State as a quarterback. We know Carl went to Fresno State. His brother David went there as well. And they've always had good players coming through there. Denfo also played at Fresno State. And it was a great program. They're trying to turn things around now, Big C. But back in the day, it was a program under Pat Hill and also Jim Sweetie. They competed with some of the top 25 teams, if not back-to-back, at least once or twice a year. And they beat many of those programs, Big C. But the only problem is, if you're not going pro, then you have no chance to make money, that kind of money that you would make in that industry. But the schools still get to keep tens of millions of dollars. And they just rehired a coach that used to play football down there. He coached at Cal Berkeley, and he also coached over. He coached at Fresno. He played at Fresno State, a quarterback. And now he's going to get several $1 million to coach the Bulldogs again, Big C. But no talk of compensation for athletes. I'm proud of what these young players are doing. The kid at Stafford McCaffrey, and also the kid out of LSU, because they're going to bring up that conversation that people don't want to talk about, and that's money for this free labor. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about this, Charlton, this negative talk about players sitting out of bowl games actually started with Fournette, all right? When Fournette said, I'm going to skip the bowl game. Now, Fournette actually could have skipped the season, Charlton. He would have been better off in his draft stock. And especially when they fired Les Miles.
Yeah.
At that point, he should have shut it down. He said, hey, I was brought here to play for Les Miles. Les Miles is not here. I'm not going to play anymore. Charlton, think about if all the players on the team, when you fired the coach mid-season, early in the season, whenever you fired, 2 games ago in the season like Gus Bradley in Jacksonville in the NFL, if all the players, and mainly on the college level, say, hey, I was brought here by this coach to play for this coach. This coach is not here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit out the rest of the year until a new coach comes along.
Yeah.
And figure out what relationship I'm going to have with him. How would the universities react to that, Charlton? That all of a sudden, and when Miles was fired, it was what, after the 4th game of the season?
Yeah.
You had another 8 games to go. How do you deal with 8 games non-revenue as a university, and especially at Death Valley, where the stadium seats 102,000 people, Charlton?
Yeah.
That you're going to go 8 weekends with no revenue. You know, think about the financial strain that's going to be on the university, the administrators. Somebody's going to get fired, Charlton, and it's not going to be that coach getting fired for a second time.
Yeah.
But, you know, the talk started for Fournette, not McCaffrey. Fournette, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because this was an African-American player making a statement saying that I don't need this any longer.
Yeah.
They need me, I don't need them. My next career move is the NFL, and people have talked about that since he was in high school.
Yeah.
Okay? And so he's understood that everybody's seen Fournette run the football.
Oh, yeah.
They've seen him run over defensive backs and linebackers, Charlton. They know that he's an NFL caliber talent. People are wondering why after his freshman year did he even play anymore, not just sit out for the next 2 years to be eligible for the draft.
Yeah, and see,
now that he makes a conscientious decision to say that's where my future is in the draft, people are lambasting him, saying he doesn't have the right to walk away from his teammates. And this is what they're trying to lay it on.
Yeah.
That he's walking away from his teammates. He's not walking away from his teammates. One less game. Think about Charlton. He missed 4 games this season with ankle injury.
Yeah.
Ankle injury. So he was putting his career in jeopardy coming back after each one of these ankle injuries, Charlton, and playing. No one said, hey, Leonard, sit out, stay out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Your stock is not going to fall any.
Yeah.
We don't need you anymore. Stay out and stay healthy. He said, no, I'm coming back to help the university. After he saw it was not going to benefit him any longer, he decided, I'm going to sit out this next game.
Well,
now the national media wants to say he's turning his back on his teammates. Tell the truth. The university turned their backs on him when they had fired the head coach who recruited him.
Yeah, and you're right. And I'm wondering, are the universities turning their back on the athletes that go to a university not because of the athletic director? They go to the university because these coaches are good salespeople. I mean, Nick Saban is a great salesperson. He can get as much labor as he can, as much free labor out of these kids that look up to him because they think that they can go to Alabama and be the next great college football player that will get drafted by an NFL football team, Big C. That's what he's good at selling. But what he's not good at selling is how all of them are going to have the access to the same options in life that he has with this multi-million-dollar contract. And one of the biggest fears that some of these coaches, these good old boy coaches they have, is that some of these athletes will gain a conscience and realize that they're giving away free labor. They're not even making minimum wage. They're not even getting tips. They're not even going to a bowl game, Big C, and saying this $1 million that most of these coaches in the Final Four will get for winning the national championship. They're not giving that money back in some form of endowment to the university or some athletic fund for the team or the kids that help them get there. And even more egregious, they couldn't give a darn about the parents that are stuck behind wherever these kids are recruited from. That money in some type of endowment would help their parents at least supply some type of funding to that kid while that kid's in college. If it comes from a wealthy family, maybe you don't have an issue with that. But for most of these kids, for the ones down in Alabama, their parents could really use the same kind of help that Nick Saban uses when he goes to the bank. It's called a paycheck, Big C. But they don't think about how they could give, even a farmer. You know how a farmer, when they plant and then they get the crop out of the field, they go back and redo the soil. so that the soil can reproduce plants again and crops again for the next time. That's not what colleges do. They just go on like a locust, and they take kids out of the inner cities for the most part, and they leave nothing behind but a pair of tennis shoes and a hat. They don't leave any scholarship funding behind, no computers, no better opportunities for a job, and I think that's egregious, and hopefully that's going to start changing, Big C. Do you have any hope of that happening soon?
Well, Charlton, you spoke so well about the inner cities, how they've been ravished of these young men with promises of a bright future, and the dreams of an NFL. I think it should be part of the NCAA's recruitment ledger. They're saying the percentage of young men who will have an opportunity to play professional sports, not just football, professional sports. When you look at the plethora of talent that is brought into the NCAA for financial gain every year, Charlton. They're not recruiting athletes for education. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
They're recruiting athletes for financial gain. You don't go out and bring in 5 of the top high school running backs to bring into your program and say, hey, we're here to get them all in education. Against each other. At University of Alabama, no one talks about it. They had 3 quarterbacks transfer this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
3 quarterbacks after Jalen Hurd won the starting job, young African-American, true freshman out of Texas.
Yeah.
Came in the opening game of the season. They played the team with that half-dead white horse.
Oh, wait a minute. That horse had moonshine in his blood. It took him 2 weeks to get that shine out of his blood, Big C. It wasn't Gatorade.
And you think about it, Charlton. These are 3 white quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Not African-American quarterbacks. 3 white quarterbacks. There was never any outlash from
No.
the University of Alabama saying that these kids are turning their backs on the program. Were they at Alabama to play football, Charlton, or were they at Alabama to get an education?
Yeah.
That is the key question. They walked away from the University of Alabama without any backlash, saying, I cannot beat this kid out,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go somewhere where I have an opportunity to play. Now, is the education at Alabama, Charlton, any less than any other university? Does they want to talk about student athletes?
Yeah.
But there was no backlash from giving these kids an opportunity to go play elsewhere. Not to get an education elsewhere, Charlton. That was never in the statement. They were going someplace else where they may have an opportunity to play.
Yeah.
Not have an opportunity for education. So this is what everyone needs to look at, Charlton. When these players walk away, we've heard no backlash from the national media, okay?
No.
Like we've heard against Fournette.
So why not, Big C?
How is he turning his back on his teammates? These 3 quarterbacks, Charlton,
Yeah.
walked away from Alabama.
Yeah.
How the hell they turn their backs on their teammates?
Well, Big C, I think it all goes back to the hypocrisy. And when somebody's just dumb, and that's how they think the term dumb jock, because they don't have the ability or the stature to stand up to a coach that can belittle them. We talked about the great Bobby Knight, the way he used to pretty much beat his kids up physically as well as abuse mentally and verbally, Big C. And he was considered a great coach and a great guy and a great mentor. I even heard some knucklehead broadcaster saying, I would love to have my kid play for Bobby Knight. And that's called abuse nowadays, Big C. That's just the fact of the matter is, even the great coach down at the good old boy Oklahoma University talked about mixing that kid that hit the woman a couple of years ago, I guess in a bar. She pushed him first, but that's still no excuse to hit a woman. And now you have, because he wants him to play in a bowl game, Stoops is saying, well, why are you going to punish him now? That was a long time ago. I mean, you can't get away with anything nowadays. Because Stoops, all he wants is that free labor. He couldn't give a darn about what happened to that woman that was knocked out by the athlete that he signed to play for Oklahoma, because it's talking about messing with Bob Stoops' money now. If Bob Stoops can win a bowl game, he can maybe go back and get another contract negotiated with Oklahoma. He didn't give a darn about what happened to that woman that got punched by the athlete, and unfortunately, the man never got to really punished for it. He should have been going into some counseling, because if you don't get someone help, I'm not saying people cannot make mistakes, but nobody's perfect. But if somebody does anything wrong, whether it's a child or an adult, if they get the chance to atone for it, that's going to help them in the future to not go around and brutalize somebody else. So why is Bob Stoops sticking up for domestic violence, Big C? Maybe it's not domestic because they weren't together or anything, but it was violence. Why is Bob Stoops sticking up for a player who clearly punched a woman and knocked her out, Big C?
Well, he stuck up for somebody, Jonathan, and I look at it from this perspective. This was an 18-year-old kid at the time.
Yeah.
When this incident occurred, and we're not advocating violence against anybody, especially females, Jonathan.
Yeah.
But this was an 18-year-old scenario where they were both in an intoxicated situation.
Yeah.
Where it shouldn't be allowed. You also got to put the University of Oklahoma to blame here, that are allowing their students to be in an alcohol maintain their student status.
Yeah.
No one says anything about a non-athlete student who is out there drinking, Charlton,
Yeah.
getting intoxicated in public. But when it comes down to an athlete doing it, Charlton, there's a different standard.
Yeah.
Now, I look at it lightly from Stoops' perspective, that he was giving this young man an opportunity. And I'm not saying that Stoops did not know what occurred when it occurred, okay?
Yeah.
But he also had the Jerry Tarkanian syndrome. Is that if I throw him away, who's going to accept him and where is he going to go in society from there?
Yeah.
Does he go on a downward spiral, Charlton? Is that's where he's going to go now because no one will pick him up? Think about Randy Moss. Let's look at Randy Moss. Randy Moss, Charlton, perfect example.
Yeah.
This was a young man who was in that same scenario when he came out of college, okay? When he came out of high school.
Yeah.
And, he didn't go to West Virginia where he grew up. He initially went to Florida State.
Yeah.
Got in some trouble at Florida State, Charlton. Ended up at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Got in some more trouble at Notre Dame, Charlton. Ended up spending, I believe it was about 6 months in jail. Got a 6-month sentence.
Yeah.
Ended up going to Marshall, Charlton. We saw what happened with Randy Moss the rest of his career as a professional. We now see him on Monday Night Football, Charlton.
Yeah.
And NFL Countdown on Sunday.
Yeah.
But when given an opportunity, you can't always throw away every life, Charlton.
Yeah.
People always say, well, they're keeping him because he's an athlete. We know that. That's the reason why they're keeping him.
Yeah.
But also, look at the rapist at Stanford, Charlton.
Yeah.
No one put him in prison forever.
Yeah.
And he raped the woman. We're not talking about punch. And he physically assaulted her and well as sexually assaulted her, Charlton. But no one cried for him to go to prison for life.
Yeah.
Like they'll do against an African-American football player, saying he needs to be locked up forever.
Yeah.
For punch. Not rape, but for a punch.
Yeah.
When this kid now is out in public, Charlton, he can do whatever he wants in public after raping a woman, being convicted of it, and being turned loose.
Well, Big C, that's a very, very poignant point that you just made. And oftentimes, even myself can be critical of anyone that does. I've been wrong at times in my life, too. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, too. But I've had someone that'll challenge me and say, you know what, you did wrong, correct it. And for young kids, I'm not saying get people in trouble and throw away the key. I think counseling helps everybody just to let them understand if you made a mistake, let's try to correct it. Get them counseling, whatever. But you just talked about something that's deeper than a football player, striking a woman, which you should never do. But the guy that did it was a black kid, okay? The white kid got punished for 3 months. I mean, that's about the time it takes for summer break for most universities. And it probably would never, they say he's going to have to register as a sex offender. Well, maybe that won't even matter because his good old friends will get him a job, Big C. I don't think it's going to stop him from getting employment down the road. There's a lot of guys who've done things that they're still gainfully employed by their friends.
We can get a letter of recommendation from the judge, okay?
Yeah.
The judge who sentenced him and released him would give this young man a letter of recommendation when you based on the statements that he made about this young man.
Yeah.
Saying that, this was an isolated incident. He's too much quality of a person to throw away. Now, you call a rapist a quality person, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little perplexed and screwed up.
Wow, that's very deep.
You call a rapist a quality person.
Yeah.
Where does that leave the person who doesn't commit a crime in society?
Yeah.
I guess if you don't commit a crime, you're scum. But if you commit a rape, you're a quality person based on this judge's analogy.
Well, and even deeper than that, I just want to say this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense, and we're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Also by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. Contact Cynthia Evans Entertainment when it comes to promotion. Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. So, Big C, just something you brought to my mind.
Let me go back to that judge one statement again.
Yeah.
Last week, the California bar said that this judge did nothing wrong in his sentencing or releasing and statements about this young man.
Wow.
They said he committed no wrongdoing, that he was within his rights. And I guess you are within your rights because the judge, you're the judge and jury. You're the ultimate decision maker in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And so his decision stands about this young man being a quality individual.
Yeah.
Going to be a pillar in society. And he will write this, he most likely, and I guarantee you, Charlton, he'll write this young man a letter of recommendation anytime he needs a job.
Yeah.
But, you also got to look at the part of society that he grew up in. He grew up in a privileged household. And I look at this one statement, and I'm going to tip it off a little bit.
Yeah.
George Carl.
Yeah.
You know, in his book that just was released. And he made some racial statements in his coach.
Yeah.
You know, about, you know, the problem African-American athletes. You know, saying that this is a lot of the problems that they have, that they're fatherless. Okay, being fatherless make you a great athlete. You talked about that with Cousins, where the Sacramento media was asking him about his family, bringing his family in to the locker room.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with his play. Just like Carl, you know, how many white athletes are fatherless out there, Johnson? No one ever makes a statement about that.
Yeah.
You know, no one ever makes a statement about that. How many of them are fatherless? You know, it's like, how many of them have illegitimate children, Johnson?
Yeah.
No one ever talks about it. And I'll give you a perfect example. The great Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Okay? Larry Bird has an illegitimate daughter.
Yeah.
that he had as a rookie with the Boston Celtics. No one ever talked about
No.
it. He didn't talk about it. All he did was support her, but he was never an in-home dad to her.
Yeah.
He sent her money. He paid the mother off to be quiet.
Yeah.
Many white athletes have done that, Charlton, over the years.
Yeah.
Just pay them off. They'll be quiet.
Yeah.
But it's never talked about the white media. The white athletes do the same thing as the African-American athletes. They come from single-parent homes. They have children outside of wedlock.
Yeah.
But it's an unspoken rule. Don't lambaste these guys, Charlton. Let them walk around and be okay about it. I had teammates that were unwed fathers, white guys, okay, had illegitimate children.
Yeah.
I had one teammate, Charlton, had 4 illegitimate children by 4 different women.
Yeah.
No one ever said anything about it in the media. They're all grown now. But, you know, everybody looked at him as an ideal citizen.
Well, Big C, I think that's a very powerful statement. I know that I think Sports Illustrated did something on Sean Kemp at the time played for the.
It was an issue. Charlton had a little child on the front, and the issue was named "Where's Daddy?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Sean Kemp was allegedly had 9 different children out of wedlock. Charlton, the late Derek Thomas,
Yeah.
linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, allegedly had 11 women outside of wedlock. The heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield had a dozen children outside wedlock, Johnson. But, you know, they only talked about the African-American athlete.
Yeah.
They never said anything about Larry Bird doing that issue, Johnson, when that occurred. Or any other white athlete. You know, where's Daddy? I mean, they travel and do all the things that the African-American athletes, Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Why do we want to throw our brethren in the white media under the bus?
Well,
we don't want to throw the guy that looks like us.
Well, see,
it makes us look bad.
And
people might think we're doing it now.
Well, no, I think what you say, you're just talking the facts, Big C, because nobody's perfect, but the media definitely, it goes back to the Kerner Commission, and they cover athletes the same way. There's so much talk about did somebody do something right or wrong, and I look at how our society, even the great Colin Kaepernick was saying how he got booed and when he went to Buffalo, New York to play in a football game, and there were people that had like bow and arrows painted on shirts with him in between the bow or the crosshairs with him between the crosshairs, and I look at what's happened in our society where people don't talk about it as egregiously or as egregious behavior when it's Caucasian athlete, Big C. But anything that's been done in society since the history of slavery, white men have done it, from raping and pillaging communities, and whether it was their mistresses or the madams or it's all going on.
Mistress, okay?
Yeah.
What's this coach name down at University of Louisville, head football coach?
I don't recall his name, Big C.
His name is Bobby Petrino.
Okay.
Okay? This is the head coach who walked out on the University of Louisville, okay?
Yeah.
In the middle of the night to go down and become the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Okay? Walked out of the Atlanta Falcons in the middle of the night to become the head coach of the University of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Turned his back on how many organizations at that point?
Quite a few. Quite a few.
He turned his back on 2, all right?
Yeah.
Got down there in Arkansas. What was he doing? Having an affair with his secretary.
Yeah.
Okay? And doing it for a long time. How did he get found out? He had an accident with her on his motorcycle.
Wow.
All right? He has an accident, but nobody buried him behind that. You know, he was welcomed with open arms back by the president of the University of Louisville.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Brought him back. Gave him a head coaching job. Gave him a lot of money, Charlton, for screwing around on his wife, having an affair, losing his previous job. You know, he was rewarded for being bad. Think about that. You're doing something that's improprietory as a coach, as a member of a university, as a married man.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to him like it did to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods lost sponsorships. He he got fired, got a new job.
That's because Tiger was with a Caucasian woman. Even Charlie Strong had some pushback over his wife being Caucasian, and that's what a lot of good old boys didn't like in Texas. But just keep this in mind, and even the great Donald Trump that bragged about grabbing women by the vagina and kissing them and getting away with it, and he had all these accusations come out against him, and he said he's going to sue all those women. He hasn't sued them yet, but he says he's going to sue them, Big C. And now that same man is going to be the guy appointing the next Attorney General. If you don't think that's egregious, Big C, here's a guy that's told every woman in the United States, your vagina doesn't matter if you're a rich white male, because I can grab it and nobody would do anything to stop me. I can even become president, and that's a fact, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's very true, Jonathan, that, the standard he's setting for the integration of women in American society. And yet so many women voted for him because, that they were under the belief that he's going to create all these jobs. Jonathan, you can't create a job in a jobless atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's almost like creating oxygen on Mars, Jonathan. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay? You cannot get rid of technology for human labor. It's not going to occur. And when you talk about, you can give anybody tax breaks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You can give anybody tax breaks. Tax breaks don't guarantee employment because what's going to be produced?
Yeah.
This is the thing. He hasn't told anybody what's going to be produced. What type of industry is going to come into America, open up all these jobs, paying these huge salaries, $25 an hour?
Yeah.
What are they going to produce? And if they're producing something and you're paying the American worker, and I would love for American workers
of course,
making $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah.
If anything was to ever come true that he said, that's the one thing that I would want to come true.
Hey, I'm still waiting for that $1 billion he's going to put into the black community, Big C. That's what I'm waiting for. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be like these college coaches. I'm going to take that money. I'm going to get me my money, Big C. Your thoughts?
But Charles, look at the people who are listening to that.
Yeah.
If you're paying American workers $25 an hour to produce an everyday product in America, how much is it going to cost you to pay for this product? No one has looked at it from their perspective. It's return on investment. There's not anybody out there getting a tax break that's saying, I'm going to produce something in America to break even or make money.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're telling industry, and that's what you told the American public without them sitting down being senile, non-senile about this situation, Charlton. You can't produce these products. You think about the expenses of a pair of Nike shoes that are made in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And those workers.
You mean Phil Knight's not making them in Ohio or Michigan or Kentucky, Big C?
He's not going to talk Phil Knight.
Yeah. Wait a minute, see. Are you saying that Phil Knight's not going to do it for the love of country, Big C? Bring jobs back to the country?
Phil Knight, Ford, Panasonic, Frigidaire, Sony, any of these companies, Charles, you're not going to bring that technology here to the United States. Not that the Americans cannot do the same job, Charlton, but when you got to pay somebody here in America, 10 times the amount of money that you have to pay a foreign worker to make the product is going to cost the American buyer more, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, Big C.
Even with the tariffs that companies have to pay to bring a product back into this country, Charlton, it's still economical.
Well,
but when you create that product here, it becomes uneconomical on one side or the other, either by the production or by the buying, Charlton.
Well, that's true, Big C. And I hope that everybody can watch the documentary 13th. We're also going to be coming out with a clothing line with Big C Sports clothing line. We can order paraphernalia from any sports team in the country, actually in the world, whether it's pro, high school, college, or even your local soccer leagues. And I just want to say, so keep that coming for the 2017 season. Also coming up with the Big C Sports Calendar as we're working with a lot of the professional and college sports leagues. Big C, as they close out the show tonight, there's a big football game for the NFC East. You have the great Carson Wentz, and he's in a game tonight against the great Eli Manning. And I just want to get your thoughts. Eli Manning's won a couple Super Bowls, Big C. Carson Wentz, he was anointed like the next Super Bowl champion by even the great John Gruden, but he was 3-0, Big C. And since that 3-0 start, I think they're like 2-9 now, Big C. But just your thoughts on the game tonight in the final few minutes. Eli Manning versus the great Carson Wentz for Thursday Night Football, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, you talk about Carson Wentz, anointing Carson Wentz. I mean,
John Gruden, yeah.
Prior to the season, being the next great thing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks of John Gruden as being this great coach, Johnson, because he won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, okay?
Yeah.
Tony Dungy did a great job assembling that team prior to him going in and winning that Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think so.
Tony Dungy retired.
Yeah.
But how many championships did he win after that, Johnson? How many times did he make the playoffs after that?
Hold on, let me Google it. Hold on, let me Google. None, Big C.
Okay. Now, when he was with the Oakland Raiders, did he develop a quarterback, or was Rich Gannon already in house?
Well, hold on. You're going too fast, Big C. Let me Google. Hold on. Did he develop? No, it says no, Big C.
Okay, and when he inherited Tampa Bay, Johnson was already under center. I kind of believe he started his career with the Minnesota Vikings and learned under that staff there.
Yeah.
With Dennis Green.
Yeah.
So, I look at what John Gruden has developed, and I'm not knocking John Gruden. I'm just asking America, what quarterback did he develop to be this expert on quarterback? Yes, he has his little quarterback camp in school on the ESPN free draft.
Yeah.
But if you look at the quarterbacks that he's had in there, Johnson, that he's labeled as number one draft picks, none of them have been a success.
No.
Like the Blake Bortles, even Blaine Gabbert, all of these guys.
Yeah.
None of them have been a success. He said the kid at Houston, your buddy Brock Osweiler, that you go hang out with.
Yeah, I'm sure I hang out with him. And he won't even pick up the tab, Big C. That's how cheap he is, Big C.
But when you look at this game tonight, this is ironically, when you think about the Giants and their record, this is ironically a must-win game for them, Charles.
Yeah.
Even though they're in the playoffs, they win this game. The pressure is on the Dallas Cowboys to win out.
Yeah.
That's how important this game is for the Giants. But on the other hand, with the Eagles, they came close against the Eagles, not the Eagles, but the Ravens.
Yeah.
Last week, missing that extra point, on that batted pass that went through too low because he's 6'6" and he's taller than the lineman. So
Yeah, I understand.
But this is a game that I think if the Eagles lose this game, Charlton, that this really blows him away as a young man moving forward with his future. I think he will be in shell shock and not be able to come back from it. And this is a home game for the Eagles, Charlton.
Yeah.
So to lose these consecutive home games, Charlton, in the national spotlight, playing against these veteran quarterbacks that have been in Super Bowls,
yeah,
knowing how far you need to go, it can really be a stumper for Carson Wentz. The Eagles' defense, Charlton, has not played great during this winning streak game.
Yeah.
That's what really helped them win those first 3 games of the season. But, they spent a lot of time on the field, and this is what the fans are not understanding. Carson Wentz has not been able to keep the Eagles' offense on the field long enough to let the defense rest. This is just like when Chip Kelly was coaching the team, where that defense was out there all the time.
Yeah.
It's a fast-paced offense. They don't have a fast-paced offense now, Charlton. They just don't have a consistent offense.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the Eagles, finding consistency. And the Giants are a tremendous defensive team. They're playing better defense than anyone expected from them, Charlton. They're playing like they played several years ago.
Yeah.
But now they understand what Wentz's limitabilities are, Charlton, that he's going to throw the short ball. The linebackers of the Giants will be very active tonight in that game.
Yeah.
Wentz is going to have to try to find a way to get the ball downfield. But the Giants' pass rush, we saw it against the Cowboys, it was relentless.
Saw it against the Lions, too, yeah.
And I think Dak Prescott has a little more mobility than what Wentz has.
Oh, yeah.
So expect them to be all out against Wentz tonight, Charlton, with that pass rush. Get him unrattled early in the game.
Yeah.
Expect for him to throw a couple picks. Eli will match you, man. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's always in Vegas. You can always get the over-under.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm trying to keep the game close, but I feel that the Giants will win to continuously put the pressure on the Dallas Cowboys, which makes the national media happy because they can keep talking about Tony Romo. Yeah,
I tell you, Tony Romo, he's gotten so much press for winning one playoff game in 12 years and not playing in about a year and a half, and every time he plays, he gets hurt. But I do wish everybody the best, and the one thing I want to say about the world of sports, it brings everybody together. We talk a real sports talk, so some things might be a little bit painful for people to hear because they don't hear much about race until you look at it when it's brought up to you how certain athletes, based on their skin color, that's how they're reported about in the media. And also, we'll point that out to you. All these people saying they feel bad that athletes are leaving the last bowl game because they may get drafted and they don't want to get hurt and jeopardize several $1 million. I'm sure they can always take that broadcast money and donate that money back to the school since they believe in working for free. And as I always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. And as we always say, there's never any excuse for domestic violence. No woman should ever have to go through that garbage on her own. If you see someone in trouble, just call 911. And as we always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And we take you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.